You are now entering the Take Up, a place to gather when the film is over. I'm your host, Joshua Ray, and I'm here with my co-host and the managing editor of the TakeUp.com, Andrew Wyatt. Hey, Andrew.
Hello.
Today, we are processing The Watermelon Woman, my pick for the new Black Film Canon program. First, we're going to talk about now showing, and then, instead of the game, we're going to talk about Succession and the end of the popular HBO series. Then, we're going to have one more thing. Andrew, as my editor, you hurt my feelings.
Did I?
I don't know that you ever have.
No editorial red lines ever sent you into an existential spiral?
No. We've been working together for a while. I'm sure something has made me have an existential spiral before, but not quite the way. I hate this. I hate that I've done this. Julia Louis-Dreyfus does in Nicole Holofcener's new film called You Hurt My Feelings. Do you want to go ahead and set it up a bit? We've both seen it.
Yeah.
We can both talk about it.
So Julia Louis-Dreyfus plays a woman, a writer, sort of typical Holofcener, upper middle class character who has a successful memoir that she wrote, working on her done with her new fictional novel that she's trying to get out there. And the thrust of the story, like a lot of Holofcener films, like one of these, what I think an outside observer might call low stakes dramedies, where in the grand scheme of things, do the things that happen in this plot really matter? No, but to the characters, it's of the utmost importance. So the crisis that she's going through is that she hears her otherwise very supportive, loving husband sort of drops on him in a moment where he's sort of denigrating or just saying he doesn't like her new manuscript and that he doesn't know how to tell her that it's not any good in his estimation.
Which is in line with the feedback she's been getting from her agent, editor.
Mm-hmm. She's very disappointed. There's a lot of subplots, but she's very disappointed with her agent, trying to get a new one. And in good Holofcener fashion, this triggers a whole dramatic spiral for her where she starts questioning everything and she starts doubting her abilities and doubting her marriage and doubting the truth of everything. Now she's in a forest of lies.
Mm-hmm. And it has ramifications for the small social circle she's in too. Right. Mostly her family. Michaela Watkins plays her sister, who is an interior decorator and has an actor husband played by what's his name?
He's Adrian Moyen, I think his name.
Yes, thank you. We're going to talk about Succession a little later.
I'm sure I butchered his name, but he's a theater guy who's mainly known for Succession, I guess.
Yeah, and others. But Holofcener is a director who's been working for 30 years, walking and talking, close to 30 years old. Lovely and amazing. She first worked with Louis-Dreyfus on Enough Said. I was going to call it It's Not That Complicated.
That's a different movie. Yeah, which I think is still my favorite of her films that I've seen. So is that Please Give, Friends with Money. She made a film for Netflix, Land of Steady Habits with Benda Mendelsohn. I'm trying to think of any others. Those are the ones that leap to mind.
Lovely and Amazing, I think, is the only one we haven't mentioned. Yeah. I like her quite a bit. I have liked all of her films. I think with the exception of Land of Steady Habits, which I reviewed for the site however many years ago.
2 years ago, yeah.
This one, I'm a little bit more mixed on, even though I could give it the old recommendation. There's a hollowness to the center of it. And that's not on the characters, but really the screenplay that she's devised.
How do you mean?
It's a lot of surf. I really enjoyed the sort of network of lies and white lies and the things that we tell the closest people who we love, ostensibly love, in order for them to just sort of make it through.
I mean, that's one of the things I did like about it, is that it is and the padded is the wrong word, because this is just sort of how she operates, is that whatever the core conflict is, we're going to see echoes and refractions and variations on that conflict and its themes in all the accessory characters and subplots going on in the story. And this film has that. So it's tough to say that the film is sort of light and like not filled with incident, but this, again, the sort of a low stakes drama. You have to, if you go into it understanding that like really we're just watching a woman, a sort of self-loathing woman who has problems taking criticism, dealing with the fact that her husband may not like her work. Like that's the central dramatic conflict of the film. And if you accept that it's that kind of low stakes story, I think it works. It works
because
well.
It's low stakes. I want to ask you if you buy or if you feel the same way about the sort of psychological conceit or like developmental conceit that she gives this character about her background and why specifically being told or like being placated to might be an issue for her. Like dancing around it. It's all like familial history and issues with her parents and things like that.
Yeah, I think if you are paying attention though, it is kind of between the lines. It is kind of between the lines. I think the average viewer, if they watch it, they might even like miss that shit completely about like how she was denigrated, abused verbally in her childhood and so forth.
See, I thought it was pronounced in a way that I felt was really sort of pat. There's also, I don't know, she might be veering into like Pier 1 territory too much.
What do you mean?
I don't know. Just the upper or like middle upper classness of these people. I don't know if it's bad timing socially for something like this to come out. And
I don't know. I do like
give a shit only to an extent. I was like, I don't know.
Well, I feel like it's relatable, and some of it is like I do think they do a good.
Relatable.
I think they do a good job of connecting it to like the idea of parental lies, like the noble lies we say we tell our children, and like the whole idea of interpersonal relationships where you build somebody up, even if you don't necessarily 100%, even if from a purely objective point of view, you wouldn't necessarily agree that they're doing great or that their work is good, or that their ass doesn't look fat in that dress. Like it's about the negotiated little white lies that we tell everybody in all of our interpersonal relationships, professionally and personal. So I think I don't know. I see what you're saying, and that there is a sort of the low stakesiness of this. Are these Upper West Side intellectuals going to be okay? Yeah, they're probably going to be okay. But like, she's relating it to a very, very universal idea. I did like Tobias Menzies as sort of like playing against his usual type as a very like nice, criminally nice, gentle, understanding, loving dude who just sort of, in a moment when he thinks he's not being overheard, sort of just vents a little bit, which we all do. But I also like the writing. I do think the writing moment to moment is good. I think I agree with it. There may be like some larger issues with the conceit, but I love the line where he's sort of flailing about to try to reassure her. He says, "I love you." She says, "Well, okay then." That solves everything. Like,
yeah, I guess that's that.
She doesn't doubt. Like, it also like it's trenchant because it's a complete misreading of the situation. She doesn't doubt that he loves her. She doubts her own abilities.
It's that he would placate her in the way he has for so long because he loves her. Like that, to me, it does sort of feel like betrayal. I have no issue with the smallness of whatever the conceit is. Do you think she's a good writer?
I do, but because a lot of what she's doing is filtering, again, sort of universal experiences through very specific. And this is what Dreyfus is also good.
Hollis Center. Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character.
Oh, do I think that she's good at what she's? I mean, we never get to read her book, so we don't really know.
I know. That's what's sort of like interesting. Also feels like a cheat. I would like to.
No, I think that's the right. I think it's the right way to do it. You make it a Schrodinger's cat situation. You never see the manuscript. You don't know how good or bad it is. But you do sense that she's overplaying her anxiety a little bit because, like, she has a published memoir. Like, most of us don't have published memoirs that sell well. So like
That
she's already made it. So this is just like
that supposedly
imposter
didn't
syndrome or
do
something.
that great. But her mother is played by Jeannie Berlin in a really great turn, which
Yeah.
Jeannie Berlin is incapable of anything else. And says they handled it wrong. Your publishers handled it wrong. I guess so much of this movie is about like the work, and like quantify or not quantifying, qualifying the work. And we see a lot of Tobias Menzies' work because it can be portrayed cinematically. And he's having this sort of existential crisis of, am I a good therapist or not? And we get a lot of therapy sessions, including with Amber Tamblyn.
Some great
Yeah.
stuff with David Cross and Amber Tamblyn. I don't know. It's sort of the opposite of the problem when you have a piece of media that's about a painter, a writer, a vocalist, or whatever, who the script tells us is a genius.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's hard to show. This is like the inverse of that. We don't really know how bad this novel is, the supposed novel is, because we can't see it. All we can see is the characters' reactions to it. But I don't know. I don't know how else to do it. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with keeping it the sort of the, we never know the audience exactly what we're dealing with. Because we're really talking about. The real dramatic stakes is not whether her novel sucks or not. It's about her relationship to her husband and her son and everybody else. Like it's about those relationships.
I want to know if it sucks.
You want to know if it really sucks?
Let me read it. Let's get the fake New York Times book review for it. I'm glad. I think it's another good Hall of Center entry. I'm glad to have it behind us because I've been singing Caroline Polachek's "So Hot You're Hurting My Feelings" nonstop. Come on. All right, tell us about. I haven't seen The Eight Mountains, and
you haven't?
Cannes last year won an award. Is critically beloved film.
Yeah. This is
I saw your Letterboxd review, and it you gave it a love, and you said what was it?
Dudes Rock Cinema is alive and well.
Right.
Yeah, this is an Italian film, or I guess like a international co-production. It's in the Alps, so I guess it's like Switzerland. It's probably French, German, Italian. Felix van Groeningen, I'm pronouncing it right, and Charlotte van der Meersch, who are both wrote and directed it. It's some of these. It's a longish movie, about 2.5 hours, a little more than that, I think. Sort of an epic about these two characters who sort of grow up. I want to say they grow up together because like their meetings involve one character who's lives in Turin, Italy, going to this sort of remote alpine village during the summer, and he meets the only other boy in this tiny town, and they sort of create this bond, and he keeps going back every summer. And then there's some time skips, like they meet each other briefly as adolescents, and then they meet up again as adults. It's just a very like, I don't want to say wholesome, because that implies that the movie is like maybe more lighter than it actually is. It's actually a pretty serious minded film about relationships, and both between people and people's relationships to geography. So the title of the film comes from like a Buddhist proverb, and the film sort of splits its action between first in the Italian Alps, and then eventually it goes to Nepal, to the Himalayas. Like it's very much about these two guys. It's a good like dudes rock movie in that respect. It's about this. It reminded me a little bit in a good way of we were just talking about Kelly Reichardt last month or a couple months ago, and it reminded me in a lot of good ways about First Cow, and that we're seeing sort of a naturally evolving and very wholesome like platonic male friendship, which we don't get a lot. Which I think this movie complicates. Like First Cow, part of the what makes it so appealing is that the drama comes from outside, that the core male relationship is very solid and doesn't really change. This film, obviously, because it's maybe a little more traditionally like melodramatic, like there are stakes that change, but there's some really awesome time skips that elide things, I think, in a really impressive way about the evolution of their relationship and their lives outside the relationship. There's a lot of stuff about fathers and sons, families, and just what makes a good male friendship, and like the kinds of things that can be built on that. I actually didn't know much about the movie going in, and I actually thought it was going to turn into a gay drama, like at some point, because like for the first hour at least, I was convinced that these boys are going to grow up and realize that they actually love each other. They do love each other, just not romantically. Like they in fact, you can argue that they, yeah, I know, but you can argue that they love each other like in a way that even their significant others, like their wives and girlfriends, never really understand. There's a lot of really cool sequences of just them doing things together. I like, again, kind of remind me of First Cow in this respect, them doing things together on the mountain silently, not talking to each other, not creating what we would typically think of as bonds created over chatter. They're bonds created over these two dudes going into the mountain and building a cabin up in like a remote part of the Alps, and the unspoken language that comes between them, and how they sort of negotiate a friendship when they reach adulthood, and it becomes this very strong thing. It's a very I say it's very wholesome, but it does. I finished this movie thinking dudes rock. We need more.
So,
we need more like
more First Cow than Old Joy, where it's like dudes are kind of weird.
Yeah. No. Like the Old Joy. The whole thing is the awkwardness of the interactions, and like you wonder how they drifted away. And like part of this film is the one thing I think this film gets very right, and even a part like most of it is in Italian and various two different dialects of Italian, sort of Turin Italian and then Alpine Italian, which is different enough that the characters have some difficulty communicating initially. One of the things I really liked about it, that it conveyed that sort of crossed cultural boundaries, even as an American viewer, is that it gets the idea of relationships that are strong enough that they can pick up exactly where they left off. And I think we've all had friends like these in their lives, where like you can maybe like be away from somebody for 5 freaking years, and then when you hook back up with them, like it's like you don't miss a beat. You have no awkwardness. Just something about you're simpatico. You've been simpatico your whole lives, and you're always going to be that way. This film really conveys that really well.
Well, I think the only thing I love more than gay romance cinema is friendship cinema.
It's sweet.
I'm down. It's playing locally still.
Yeah, maybe. I think it's at the Alamo right now.
Yeah. But with your other raves, New York Times. So,
yeah,
all the people you trust. Hey, let me tell you about Dudes Don't Rock cinema. That is about my father.
Is this the De Niro?
Yeah, so it's comedian Sebastian Maniscalco. The setup is that he is going to marry this affluent woman. Mother is a senator. Father is a runs an upscale hotel chain. And he's just a dude from the Bronx, and his dad's an old Italian dude from the Bronx, and blah, blah, blah. That's a really good impression, because a lot of this,
oh God,
I have to say for myself, a lot of it is voiceover and expository voiceover in the simplest way. This is someone who got like, maybe not a blank check, very small check, to do something based upon his popularity, and chose sort of the lowest common denominator. It has a few charms. Kim Cattrall plays the senator mother, who's very, of course, like uptight and like, I'm very rich. Don't move my antique
I'm already
furniture.
seeing this movie charted on a whiteboard.
It's definitely that. Robert De Niro, you would think this all immediately recalls Meet the Parents, of course, except he's playing like the Fockers.
The embarrassing
yeah, so he's like the Dustin Hoffman side of Meet the Fockers. I don't know, like, sure, De Niro trying for some laughs these days. He's been doing that a lot, because I guess you need a paycheck. Like, does Robert De Niro need a paycheck?
I don't know. Somebody on Twitter recently described his sort of late years career as like, he's just in some of the worst films you can imagine, and he just completely checked out. And then like every 5 years he's in a Scorsese movie or something.
Yeah, he'll go realize that
Marty, and you realize he's like still one of the greatest actors who've ever lived. But
yeah,
there's a lot of filler in there.
He's given a lot of hijinks to do, which are cute and fine. And Sebastian Maniscalco, I think, could, given the right material, maybe that he has nothing to do with, could be a charming presence. Ultimately, it's sort of forgettable. You can probably tell because I'm struggling to remember what happens in this, other than Robert De Niro does cook the family peacock for dinner for them, because he gave Kim Cattrall a bad haircut.
This is an act of vengeance, not a deliberate culinary
you
choice.
You don't find out for quite some time. Pretty good suspension of disbelief right there. Yeah, there's just like a lot of dirty jokes. I don't know, it's fucking stupid. Little Mermaid.
Oh yeah,
Can I
we
talk
can
about
talk
Little
about.
Mermaid?
I have not seen Little Mermaid, and
Are you going to?
have.
Are you going
I,
to?
I have opinions on these Disney remakes, and they are not good. So.
What are your opinions?
Do you really want to know?
Yes, because I feel the same way. I'm telling you right now.
I'm maybe not hostile to them the way some people are. I
never
just
mind.
do not.
I
just
don't
do
feel
not.
the same way. I am hostile.
I just do not. Well, and admittedly, I have not seen some of the like alleged great offenders. I have not seen the Lion King, quote unquote, live action film. I haven't seen the what was the other one?
Cinderella, Jungle Book.
Jungle Book is the only one I thought kind of worked. Maybe
I can't remember the other ones. I don't know. They
sleeping,
all
I mean, there's a question of what falls under this umbrella. Like, is the Pete's Dragon from Dave Lowry?
No,
because I like that one.
Yeah, I mean they're
is Maleficent.
No,
it's not a remake. It's just like a prequel or something. Yeah.
I'm talking about these 1-to-1 live action remakes, like Lion King. Cinderella wasn't even that. It still had some fresh.
Beauty and the Beast. That Beauty and the Beast was terrible. Beauty and the Beast was terrible. Yeah. Let me put it this way. I literally had this thought this past week. I was thinking about this movie, about the Little Mermaid movie, and I said mentally, I wonder why they haven't remade. They've done a lot of the Disney Renaissance films. I wonder how I haven't remade Aladdin. And then I thought, holy shit, they did remake Aladdin. It was 3 years ago,
like $1 billion.
And I had completely forgotten about it. That's how low, like how little these films matter in the grand scheme of things. Like I didn't even remember that they had made the movie I was thinking about. So,
but they matter a lot to the general public. It's very confusing to me because I watched The Little Mermaid with the worst migraine. It gave me such a migraine. One, visually, it's very murky. It's very dark. And I think at this point, we sort of figured out that with these largely CGI products, the darker you go, the less expensive it is, less work you have to do because you don't have to.
Is that the reason?
A lot of detail.
I don't know if is that the really reason. I haven't read any explainers that gave me a definitive answer on this.
I don't. Why else? Like, what else are they doing?
Deliberate bad stylistic choice. I mean, why the orange and teal that dominated?
Not because of HGTV, but nothing else looks like that. Nothing else really looks like that. Although I did watch, what was that Predator movie?
Prey.
I know you saw it because on your Letterboxd. It was the Alien versus Predator Requiem.
Oh God.
Do you remember this?
Yes, it's terrible.
It's the darkest movie I've ever seen. I was so confused. Like, why? I mean, that's my hypothesis on the thing. I don't know. And then you add 3D on top of it, and I saw it in 3D.
Oh God, I didn't even know it was in 3D.
Yeah. And then so you add these gray glasses on top of it, and I'm like, what are we doing? I can't really see what I know.
I know your opinion. Atrocious. I know your opinion on the new Avatar film, but did it make you? Was it so bad that it made you pine for the colors of Avatar?
Absolutely. I'm like, take me back to Na'vi. My baby is strong. I'm so sick of this stuff. So anyway, so visually it lacks sort of any panache, any appeal, if you can even sort of wade through, excuse
what's going on,
what they're doing. What you can see is really kind of confusing. Halle Bailey plays what's her name? Ariel. And so the camera's on her a lot under the sea. Mm-hmm. And her face moves at a different rate than her head. Look, I can't explain a lot of the choices here, but it's clear that to do this sort of underwater CGI stuff, You have to throw $1 billion at it. You have to own an island. You you have to take 10 years to do it. Like it retroactively, you're so right. It makes me appreciate what James Cameron was doing with Avatar: The Way of Water. Uh Elsewhere, like Melissa McCarthy plays Ursula, and it's just it's not great. Everyone's sort of doing an impression of the animated film The Little Mermaid,
Mhm.
which is interesting because it was the beginning of the Disney Renaissance. It
Yeah, it was
was
the first one. It was the first one
yeah,
in
it
the
was
Renaissance.
and um
We don't talk about Film
I'd
on the
seen it
Range or
probably
those
seen it
movies.
again like 2 years ago, and um didn't love it. I mean, all of these Disney films have, like the family romance on their head and in their brains, and are
I
so
think,
like slavish to capitalist nuclear
well, but even
family.
all that aside,
Or
okay, let's forget about, let's just
I
set that
don't
aside for a second.
really want to, but okay.
Okay, but like I think so you can argue that same issue. Maybe it's even exacerbated in the live action ones because there isn't that veneer of fantasy
Now
or
this is the
fairy
other,
tale. But
yeah.
like to me, it always what always sort of rubs me the wrong way about these films is the way it does a disservice to the original animators. And like if you just view it formally as animation as an art form,
Mhm.
like you take one reason the Beauty and the Beast film rubbed me so wrong was that like here's the Beast, one of the most
the
fascinating visually
the
create
animated version, the
yeah, the animated version
91.
of the Beast from the original Beauty and the Beast is like one of the most amazing traditional animated characters of all time. Just for the design, the way he's animated, scene to scene, the shot to shot, the way that they can portray him in different lights, fearsome, shy, terrifying, loving from different angles. It all has to do with work that the animators are doing and the voice
Mhm.
actor, and it just feels so disrespectful. We'll just throw up the CGI blob that I defy anyone to like remember what the Beast from the remake even looked like the most unmemorable furry CGI blob you ever imagined. It just feels like you're spitting in the faces of the animators to me.
I know exactly what you mean. While I'm watching this thing, part of the problem is the great dissonance that's created in watching this live action version with these
Mm-hmm.
human beings trying to mimic, or maybe that's unfair even, do their own version of this animated thing, but also stay very close to the source. And
Mm-hmm.
so what happens is like this uncanny valley version of things where I've got remember when we talked about the Gus Van Sant Psycho remake? I thought about that film a lot while I was watching this because
Really?
I argued that that dissonance is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the enjoyment of it in that it creates a dialogue with the original.
Mm-hmm.
This creates a dialogue with the original in a way that is so not smart, that is
Mm-hmm.
so stupid. Um,
Well, I don't think that they're
I
even trying. Like at least Gus Van Sant, you can
no,
acknowledge, even if you didn't like the Psycho remake, I think you can at least acknowledge that he's a smart filmmaker who had a point when he was trying to make. There's no point
it was an
here to
experiment.
these things
This
other
is a
than,
cash grab.
yeah, you remember this? Hey, here's this thing. Do you remember it? Here's it in a
Right.
slightly different version. Like
Yeah.
that's the message. That's the message that they're going for.
You
Remember
know it,
this?
you loved it.
Yeah.
Here's some other people doing
Pay
it.
for it again.
Also, I reviewed it on K-Movie and reviewed it with a colleague of ours, Taylor Blake,
Mhm.
St. Louis Film Critic Circle member with us. And she did the math. It is 52 minutes longer than the original.
Ugh. And let me
And
guess,
you
like
feel it.
nothing that they added is even remotely essential.
I could not tell you what is different other than the feeling of me like coming out of my skin. Anyway,
Do
let's
not see
go
the
from Under the Sea to In the Dust.
oh, well, speaking of dire films, uh, and in a good way,
Really? Oh,
Um,
okay.
so yeah, this is a new film. It's on streaming on Film Movement Plus. It was from 2000, way back in
Ooh.
2019, I believe it premiered at Venice. It's just now getting some American distribution via Film Movement. You can watch it on their streaming service. This is a Lithuanian drama. I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce this by the Lithuanian filmmaker Sarunas Bartas. He's been working for about 30 years now. I don't think his films are that well known outside of the international festival circuit. But this is his first stab. He's dabbled in a lot of genres, actually. He's made sort of gritty crime neo-noir crime thrillers. He's made like some borderline avant-garde films that are almost experimental, playing with form and images. This is probably the closest he's come to ever making a quote-unquote straight period drama. But it is very sort of stereotypically Eastern Europe period. Like, what's our stereotype of the Eastern European film? Long, slow, and depressing, right?
Right. And like going through the motions of some kind of bureaucracy or
just life is, I mean,
Romanian.
life is terrible. And I mean, I think like people, and we're going through a moment right now where this kind of filmmaking is receiving like a lot of denigration from sort of populist, not even critics, I would say, like social media personalities or whatever, denigrating like Bellatar or whatever.
Who are those people? Like,
I don't know.
Get
Morons.
them out.
Morons. Right. So I think if you're going into this, you have to be aware that in some ways this film is like fulfilling that stereotype in the best possible way. It's about, specifically, it's a sort of wartime drama, post-war drama, really, set in 1948 in Lithuania at the time when the Soviets are sort of refusing, sort of like pulling back. They're supposed to be pulling back to Russia, and they're not. They're staying in the wake of World War II. They're staying in the Baltic region. And so we're sort of in this period now where there's a entrenched resistance, like a populist resistance to Soviet occupation that's happening. And that's the fundamental conflict of the film. It's about this sort of nameless town in the middle of nowhere, little peasant town where like the Soviets are occupying, and they're trying to find the resistance fighters who are hiding in the woods. All this is being depicted through the eyes of this 19-year-old boy, peasant boy, who sort of admires the partisans in the woods, but even at 19, he's still sort of naive about the way the world works and the threat posed by the USSR. And he's got a very sort of older, cynical adopted father who's trying to sort of caution him, like, you got to be careful. You can't be running out to the woods to meet with the rebels because you're going to get caught. The NKVD, like the KGB's predecessor, is here. The Red Army's here. Like, you're going to get caught. So very slow, deliberate film. A lot of sort of elliptical scenes, a lot of studious, contemplative cinematography that focuses on the sensory aspects of this world. Like, it's a very evocative film. About the first shots of the film are sort of conifers, snow-covered conifers creaking in the winter wind, and trembling, dirt-encrusted hands in front of a meager campfire, just barely staying warm, and long shots of that kind of thing. So you have to be prepared for that. But I really liked it overall. I think it's not a period of history that I think has been portrayed that much in the West. It's not a conflict you hear much about. This was a whole, like, this to this day, this is a whole nationalist movement that's still idolized in the Baltics. All the Baltic nations had sort of their own native, what were called the Forest Sons, which are the sort of partisan movements that were hiding out in the forest and resisting Soviet occupation for well into the 50s. Like, this occupation lasted a while. The occupation obviously lasted till the 1990s. But the resistance movements hung on for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very dark film. It is not, I will warn you, it does not have a happy ending. Would you believe it or not? A Lithuanian period drama that does not have a happy ending.
I can't believe it.
But there are some sort of like darkly ironic things, like the partisans saying, oh, in 6 to 12 months, this is all going to be over. And you're sort of like, I think it was 1991 before this was over.
Don't say that. People keep saying that. And I'm like, dudes, history has not taught us that.
So very dark film. I do like that it sort of happens. The times that it breaks away from the main character's perspective are actually some of the weakest parts of it. I really like the way that it chooses the sort of naive, incomplete perspective of this 19-year-old kid, very sort of guileless kid, as an entry point into this very difficult story. So,
did you ever see Mr. Landsbergis? At True False, the Lesnitsa film documentary with the sort of
this was like the
doc about
this is like the 4-hour movie, right?
Yeah. I don't think it has distribution yet. I thought that would make a good bookend to In the Dusk, how you're Just
Yeah.
Anyway, that aside, hey, Andrew recommends In the Dusk, and then I recommend Mr. Landsbergis. So why don't you have a really great evening thinking about
Dire.
fascism?
Yeah, 6 to 7 hours of authoritarian horror.
Yeah. Yeah, we have it 24 hours a day here. Maybe we should move on and talk about the Take-Up film. Be a little bit more positive. Certainly a film.
Let's talk about some indie lesbian cinema.
All right. That's Cheryl Dunier's The Watermelon Woman, my pick for the new Black Film Canon program. It's a lot of words.
Yeah. So, I mean, let me intro a little bit here and ask you. This is a film I've heard about for years. I think we actually showed it at Q-Fest, or maybe with Celeste
2017.
Yeah,
it was a couple of years before I started working.
I heard it. I've been hearing about it for a while. I think when like you were popping up as a film that is name checked on Yellow Jackets on Showtime, like your moment. Yeah, your moment you've officially entered the new queer canon as well as the new Black canon. So I believe it's getting a Criterion physical release for the first time. So like, but why have all the films on this list? Why this one for you?
Because of that.
Film. I'm sorry. Did I steal your thunder? I'm sorry.
No, that's right. It's a movie I have never seen, and a movie that I am aware that I need to see. But it was always something. There's been a recent restoration. UCLA, the film archive there, cleaned it up, made it nice. It was something that I was aware that the form of it involved like 16 millimeter film and a lot of VHS footage. So it was like, I don't want to watch a shitty version of that. Like, I'm so spoiled that I didn't watch The Watermelon Woman for that reason. I mean, it's also a film that has a reputation of being very theoretically sticky, and we're going to get into a lot of that. That I guess I just wasn't ever really prepared to approach. And when I saw it on this list, it was sort of the one for me. So yes,
the one that jumped out. It's like, why haven't I seen this yet? Kind of thing.
Yeah, like, why haven't I watched it? It was on Criterion Channel, like toward the beginning of the pandemic, when they they got into a lot of trouble for their representation of Black filmmakers in the collection proper. So
yeah, there was a big New York Times piece, right?
New York Times, which is a great article. And
to their credit, it seems like in the last couple of years,
immediately adjusted. But this is Cheryl Dunier's 1997 film. I think it showed some places in 1996, and its reputation really preceded it. And when I saw that it was on this list, and you suggested that we do this program, and we also, both of us thought, let's pick something that we haven't seen. I think for each of us, there were varying levels of knowledge of the films on there, but had seen quite a bit of it. We've been in the trenches for a while, but this seemed like a big one, particularly for me as a queer film festival programmer, as a queer person, as a queer film critic, as someone who's interested in film theory, even, as it turns out. I can't believe I hadn't seen this movie until I was 36.
Well, I also feel like the picking, again, we're two white guys sitting here talking about the new Black canon. So we need to preface with that.
There,
but that's why I think it's important for us to seek out films on this list that we haven't seen before, because we don't want to pose ourselves as talking about films that we're experts about. This is more like an exploration, more like two white dudes feeling their way through these film classics and new classics and trying to get a handle on them.
So can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Having said that, this is a film, it's a metafictional film. Let me set it up and then I'll ask my question. Cheryl Dunier is not only the director, co-writer of this film, is the lead character. She is a filmmaker who is running a side hustle with her friend of doing like video work, videoing events, weddings.
Yeah.
the two of them work at a video store. Cheryl is a filmmaker, and she always kind of puts an asterisk next to it and says, I'm working at a video store, I did my BA, blah, 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 and I
Trying to be.
aspire to be a filmmaker.
Mm.
She becomes enamored, I think you could even say, with this figure who she sees in a film, who is uncredited. This person is playing a mammy character. This is a black actor, black female actor, excuse me. And all she knows is that she's referred to as the Watermelon Woman.
And we should clarify that this is a woman from like the early days of sound film.
Yeah, I think
from the 20s, 30s.
in this film called
Plantation Dreams.
Yeah, Plantation Dreams. Jesus Christ. There's a relationship to like Hattie McDaniel or Butterfly McQueen.
Who are all name checked.
Gone with the Wind. Yeah. Gone with the Wind. What's the one with Betty Davis? Fuck. See, this movie is so galaxy brained in the most gentle way. But anyway, so the film takes the form of being a documentary about the search and finding out who the Watermelon Woman was, but also has the same, like, on the same tracks is a fictionalized version of Cheryl's relationship with her friends, her family, and a new girlfriend. And one thing I haven't said is Cheryl is queer. I think definitely calls herself lesbian. Like, why did I task myself with unraveling this thing in a plot description?
It's a unexpectedly ambitious film.
So let me ask you this: with all that's going on in The Watermelon Woman, there are a lot of scenes about the history of Black performers in show business, not only in the scene in Philadelphia, in the nightclub scene, but also this actor who was, unbilled and whatever for a period of time in Hollywood films. And through that, you get what is sort of an accumulation or an aggregation of Black performers in Hollywood during that time. So yes, Hattie McDaniel is explicitly referenced. Butterfly McQueen is also explicitly referenced. There's a scene where Cheryl, in direct address, in filming herself on VHS footage, flips through a bunch of pictures, including the two aforementioned actresses, and Juanita Moore from Imitation of Life, Lena Horne, I think might have been in there, where she's sort of excavating the history of Black performers in Hollywood and show business. Did you feel that these sections were pedantic or not?
Maybe, but I don't think that's a bad thing in this case, if that makes sense.
I'm not setting you up to say something like, but that's how I felt too. Like,
I think
it is sort of, it is doing the thing. It's an interesting film because she's doing the thing the form of the film takes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I have some criticisms of this film, but they're mainly like just typical criticisms you had of a low budget indie film where the filmmakers are still sort of feeling out the media.
Yeah, I get all that.
We can get to that. There's some issues with acting and just directorial choices, but all that aside, I think the thing that really strikes me is when I first watched this was Donnie is so confident in this autofictional, metafictional dimension to her film. She knows exactly what she's doing, but she presents it to this. Let me put it this way. I spent a good portion of this movie not knowing whether Faye Richards was a real person or not, like going back and forth in my mind, which I think, it's a testament to like even on a low budget, you can make a convincing fictional person out of thin air. Like she had photographers create photos. They created little snippets of film that didn't really exist. But I think it also speaks to like the strength of her concept and the strength of the whole premise of this film and the form that it takes, is that she's making what, for all purposes, like in the outside looking in, it feels like a very much a new queer cinema indie 1990s film. Like it's kind of a shaggy hangout film in some respects. There's a lot of
You have
sequences
those intertitles, sort of
intertitles. She name drops Spike Lee, and there's interstitial sequences where Cheryl and her friend are sort of dancing pointlessly, like on the rooftops of Philly. Like there are little notes that feel very indie queer cinema, indie black cinema, 1990s. And a lot of the film is just sort of hanging out with her goofball friends and like just steeping in the subtext of what it's like to be a like hard luck, underemployed lesbian black filmmaker in Philly in the 90s. But underneath that, she's smuggling in this, like, as you say, very galaxy brained ideas about like representation and history and art and erasure, like all that's being smuggled sort of under the hood. And I guess it's pedantic in the sense that like any movie with direct address is going to be a little pedantic. Any movie, and there's a strain of sort of righteous anger that starts to come out slowly as she starts to realize how much of Faye's history has been suppressed or erased or just lost. But I feel like there's a point to it. She's coming from a place of, I think, and again, I'm just a cishet white dude, but it feels like a place of genuine self-righteous anger about the situation, about the way the history. I mean, it couldn't become more pointed than when like the lady from the Clit lesbian archives comes in and just dumps a disorganized box and say, here's our black lesbian section, and dumps a box of archival material unsorted onto a table.
Yeah, you can't just drop Clit and not say that stands for the Center for Lesbian Information and Technology.
Sorry.
But that's a great point that you're making. Isn't
the assumption that most people who were listening to this have watched the film, like they're watching along with us? Hopefully.
Maybe not. I will say most people listening to this are going to be fine with us saying Clit.
Okay.
But it's an acronym, I promise. Yeah. But it's really playful about all of these things. One thing you said is she is angry about these things, but this is not necessarily an angry film. Not that anger can't be associated with sharp or clever or smart, but it is a lighter film about all of these.
I guess what I'm saying is I feel like her character, and maybe this is also the filmmaker, but this is the trouble when we're getting to sort of metafictional places. Like, who am I talking about? Am I talking about Cheryl the character or Cheryl the filmmaker? I guess what I'm saying when I say that it feels self-righteously angry, and justifiably so, is that I feel like the way she wrote the film and the way she's performing it, it feels like her anger is emergent. We're watching it happen organically in real time as she's learning these things, and we're learning these things about this character. And not to go right to the end, but the film does have kind of this close to final scene where she meets the woman who was Faye's partner from back in the day. And that woman is clearly angry about the way that Faye has been
related to the lover.
Yeah. I'm sorry, daughter, I guess it is.
I think so, but it's a really funny scene.
It's really funny. She's very angry about that. And there's a whole like interracial lesbian dimension to this film that I'm not sure I even want to touch on, because I feel like I'm a little bit outside my lane. But
well, I do want to touch on it just a little bit. There are corollaries happening in the quote unquote present scenes that are familiar as 90s indie film. And they're 60 millimeter. And as you mentioned, performances are a little stiff and a little awkward. Maybe the dialogue is kind of stiff and awkward sometimes too. That's not fair. I said that, and I think I was just talking. The dialogue is not. It's all on the performers. They're not.
Yeah. There's a lot of I think there are a lot of non-professionals in this film.
Yeah. But there are corollaries to the research and to the research that we're watching unfold, which, as it turns out, is not necessarily the end product, which is another layer to this. That you just have layers of history collapsing on each other, and you see how the misrepresentation, underrepresentation, or lack of complete dearth of representation of Black queer life in history has been buried deep, buried deep. And what you have is this person who is very openly Black, queer, lesbian filmmaker who's digging it up, but in the process is also sharing what that life can be like. And this is a really great version of in like open and free version of queer life. And I was live in 1997, but was a child. So I cannot speak to the veracity of that queer life. And I can never speak to the veracity of a depiction of Black queer life. But there's something so sweet about it in that you don't have a lot of sort of outside forces and the oppression of it, but it's all still present. What you have is a lot of celebration of it. A lot of the scenes that we see, a lot of the fictional scenes that we see that are done in the 16 millimeter are about Cheryl's double date.
I mean, that's the fight. I think I want to, like, we've talked about a lot of there's a lot of serious issues we talked about in the last 10 minutes. But it's a funny film. It's a warm, in some ways, despite all that, it remains a warm, light, funny film and sexy. Like,
sexy, yeah.
Whatever else happens with Cheryl and Diana's relationship later in the film, this, like, the flirtation scenes in the video store are just like insanely hot.
They're
like
so fucking cute.
They're so cute together.
So cute.
And Cheryl's so oblivious. It's funny.
And she's like,
I love it when people are like oblivious in rom-coms,
I don't think she's oblivious. I think
she's playing it cool.
She's like, watch Carrie.
There's like,
the one way to get me. That is the one way to get me is someone like recommend Carrie to me as if I didn't watch it out the womb
10,000 times.
Yeah.
Well, like, and again, it's like the worst karaoke performance ever. It's a funny film. I do want to say that it's not like laugh out loud funny. I describe this as don't we all know somebody like this sort of like a lot of it is just depiction. Cheryl's depicting her friends and saying on some level, like, we all know people like this in our lives who are oblivious this way, or like hard to love. It's also kind of like sad. There's a bit of a slightly, even though there's victory, but also kind of a downer ending in terms of
a bit of melancholy in it.
What's going on in Cheryl's personal life at the end of the film, even though she has this sort of professional artistic victory.
Person she works with, who is
Tamara.
Tamara, played by Valerie Walker, is just like, that is a really great comedic performance. It is still stilted in the way we're talking about. It's like non-professional actor acting, but she has so many good one-liners because she's sort of no nonsense and has a longtime partner, and Cheryl like encourages Cheryl to sleep around because Cheryl hasn't been with anyone for a while, and like Cheryl is very easily attracted to a shiny object in the form of the watermelon woman, this elusive figure from
but also past. Tamara might say like femi white girls too,
right? And then the other thing you like are white girls, so what's up with that? And and then you have Diana enter, who remains sort of I don't know, you don't really get close to Diana, which I like that's an outsider in their world. I really like the moment. And Cheryl, this is after there's a really great and like tender sex scene where Cheryl and Diana are in bed together,
which got this film into hot water with the government, weirdly enough.
Hold it.
Okay, we'll get into that.
Hold on. Immediately after this, hold that. Where Diana admits to, or not, it feels like an admission.
That she's dated all the black
3 black boyfriends before Cheryl, and there's no comment about that from Cheryl, but the film bring it up feels very pointed in that,
Mhm.
like the fetishization and how that ties back to what the watermelon woman, who we should say watermelon woman, is like an answer to Melvin Van Peebles' film Watermelon Man, but also
Mhm.
there's discussion about the watermelon in Black culture. Wait, okay. We had a pin in something. What was
The
it?
NEA fight.
Oh, NEA fight. And then the next pin is Camille Paglin's
Yeah,
pin.
yeah.
Okay, NEA fight. The same thing happens with Todd Haynes' Poison.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the National Endowment for Arts um, funds, partially funds some of this film, Todd Haynes' Poison, and gets into a lot of hot water
Mm.
because of the content of the film. One, there's lesbian sex in it.
Mhm.
Two, it's an indictment uh of white oppression.
Mhm.
And I don't,
But let's be honest, it was the lesbian sex that really set off the culture
it's
wars,
the
probably.
lesbian sex. I mean, because maybe they don't believe or understand, and this is 1997. It's the same frame of thought that we're presented with today with all these folks. It's like, this representation is against everything they idealize.
It's a
And
very
how
tender,
dare the
sexy. It's a very
government?
tender, sexy scene too. Like,
Yeah.
if you just look at
And
it
it's the same
objectively. Yeah.
discussion that David Wojnarowicz had in the 80s. I mean, it's the same
And
discussion that keeps getting recycled.
and I remember this. Like, I was old enough to remember I remember the Andre Serrano Piss Christ, the Karen Finley performance art. Like, I remember those controversies. People talk about today's culture wars. Like, this has been going on. Like, this keeps coming up over and over again. This kind of nonsense.
Just
But
sort of
yeah, the
like
film got into hot
celebrated.
water, and there was, I mean, it ironically probably raised its profile for this little indie, borderline underground film. So like, Dunya had to like scrape together like people she knew, friends and relatives, to help fund this thing. It was kind of a threadbare production, from what I understand.
And even though that it goes through that controversy, and it played Berlinale, and it won the queer award there, called the Teddy. It gets distribution on an indie level, so probably played in major cities, and it hangs around for a while, but it has the staying power because it is sharp enough. It is the film that I think this particular intersection of communities needs to have. But on one hand, I'm like, okay, where are all the rest of them?
Yeah, I mean,
We have a lot of Black queer films and filmmakers that have been canonized. We could go to Moonlight and all that stuff that's on this list. We have Pariah that's on this list, but it's like, how many more can you and I name?
right. And
Not that many.
it's some of it is just literacy gaps, like our own.
Sure.
I'm a middle-aged white dude. This is a segment of cinema I don't know as much about as I should. But like, part of the films is the point the film is making. Some of it is like just in curiosity, some of it is institutional. But part of the point that this film is making is that some of it is just, there's a historical excavation. That's like in archaeology, some things cannot be recovered because there's too much time has passed. She's sort of bumping up in the 1990s. She's sort of bumping up against the last people who remember this woman as a living person. It's like and that's maybe where some of the melancholy. I think there's a couple we can talk about. There's a couple places where the melancholy of the ending comes, but I think part of it is there's a sense of victory in that Shell has successfully excavated Faith's story, but there's also this sense of, and how many others are there? Like, how many? And she had to make up a non-existent actress for the story. There's probably reasons for that, but like, there were other
the
actors.
figure is representational, right? And she needed to. One of the things behind the scene is like, it was too expensive to go and actually dig through archives to find a figure like this, and so let's make up someone.
When she goes to the lesbian archive, I feel like there's some true to life stuff in there where she's like, they're arguing about whether she can take the photos with her or whether she can copy them. Like, it feels like somebody who's actually wrangled with archivists.
An archivist would do.
Yeah, would have that situation written into their script. But
But
yeah,
see,
like,
all of that is baked into the film itself, is that she's trying to excavate these things and find these things through a cinematic form. I mean, this is a film that's very gentle to watch. Even though, I mean, for me, I'm, a queer film critic, so maybe for someone else it might be more
no,
difficult. But
no, I mean, again, I'm a straight cis het dude, and I had a lot of fun with this film. But I think that's part of the genius of it. Like,
yeah,
it again speaks to Danae. Danae knew exactly what she's doing. She's making this
yeah,
lo-fi hangout queer dramedy that's also this metafictional commentary on art and race and gender and sexuality and history, like all together. It can be all those things at once. And I think that's sort
yeah,
of the, I don't know that we get movies like this. It feels something
not
very
really.
indie 90s about that. Like it
Not
feels.
something that I think you can point to a lot of films that sort of look like this or feel this way, but
Mhm.
not that contain the metatextual layers that you will fucking eat for
Mhm.
days and days. A lot of this stuff that we're talking about, I'm somewhat smart, but didn't really emerge for me until everything was over. In the last section of the film is
Mhm.
Cheryl presents the quote unquote documentary she's made about the
Mhm.
watermelon woman, which is like 3 minutes long. And like, but
And continues playing over the credits too. Like,
yeah, the whole thing is so much about itself in the least pretentious way. The film that most recalls for me is Orson Welles' F for Fake. Um, and not in in theory so much, because Wells is talking about the charlatan and magic and documentary filmmaking,
but
but
that's fascinating,
Cheryl's
right?
also doing the same thing. This is a grand magic trick that she's pulling off
But
here.
that's fascinating. That so we here have in the 1990s a black queer filmmaker making the textual equivalent of the movie that Orson Welles had to be an older man to make. Like he
Right.
had to go through his whole career before
Right.
that like impishness of F for Fake came out. And here Dunya is doing it at the beginning of her career, which is sort of fascinating.
But this feels equally impish to
Mhm.
me, and even in some of the what we are calling minuses, which is like some of the formal decisions or some of the performances that,
Yeah,
like, I
a lot
think
of
you
it comes
could
back
make a
to
logical circle around that she is making a film about these films, and so it's very indie. Yeah, you can do
it's
all
a lot
that.
of it is the performances for me. Like it just
Yeah,
comes
yeah,
off
me
as
too. Me too.
too long. It's just stiff and amateurish. Too long pauses between lines. Characters delivering
Yeah.
lines to the like they're in an improv group instead of in like they're in the scene. I don't know.
But I could see myself watching this film so many times I convinced myself that that is intentional. And but
There's
it
some
is
formal decisions. There's a moment. There's a moment that stood out for me where like then he dissolves from one shot of the video
yeah,
store to the same shot, and it's like it's not even a time. It's
there's
not even a time
yes, yes,
passing
yes.
dissolve. It's like
I know
what did you
exactly
do that
what
for?
which part you're talking about. I put a pin in Camille Paglia, which we should all do.
Oh yeah,
That's
come back to her.
an interesting inclusion, because at this time, Karina Longworth is just talking about her in context of her erotic 90s series. I forget which
So with
film
this, but before after
she
she
was
wrote
talking
Stiff
about.
was what year was that?
After a few years after.
Hmm.
um but it's so interesting that she still has reverence for Paglia and
Mm-hmm.
allows her to show her fucking ass. And
I mean, that's the thing. Do we think this was all Paglia just talking, or was this scripted?
I don't know, it feels off the cuff,
It feels like the kind of thing she would
because
say.
it's all very she's saying like, dear listener, if you haven't watched the movie, she's talking and saying like, oh, the symbol of the watermelon in black culture, I don't know why anyone would feel this is denigrating. When I see an image of a young black person having watermelon, I feel joy. And I don't know why anyone would feel this is
Well, she does. She does white cultural critics they do when they minimize that kind of thing. She invokes her Italian heritage. It's like, well, I'm Italian.
She does say, why would anyone find the mammy figure a negative figure? I find it very positive because my grandmother, she's an Italian white woman. My grandmother was in the kitchen making food all the time and not,
But do you think that was Danier like giving Paglia the rope and letting her hang herself?
Letting her hang herself, absolutely.
You know,
and
because there are other like cultural figures, queer community figures who show up in like minor roles and like or in cameos in this scripted roles. So I wasn't, again, maybe speaks to the sort of genius of the autofictional metafictional approach here, is that I couldn't often tell like what was real and what wasn't.
I don't think, knowing the bit about Camille Paglia that I know, I don't think that she would have appeared in this film and said things that she didn't believe in order to make a point.
About white culture. She wouldn't have satirized white culture.
This is shit she says. This is shit she says. But she's, she has written good things, but I don't need to do that for her. Anyway.
She doesn't need us.
No, she doesn't.
Can we talk a little bit about the ending? I keep coming back, like, so there's so much going on in this film, but I keep coming back to, again, a relatively lighthearted film, but the ambiguity of the ending in some respects. Like, and I mentioned that it is victorious in the sense that Cheryl successfully excavates. So let me explain.
Cheryl successfully, the ending, not the Watermelon Woman documentary that plays over the credits. You mean the
ending of Cheryl's narrative? Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So that documentary that she creates is like the thing that she wanted to do. Like, so she has essentially, she's not only made the documentary, she's excavated down to the bedrock of, well, at least as far as she can go, of Faye's story. She's found like her actual someone who knew her when she was alive, who sort of dispels the rumors about Faye's life, that she had a relationship with a white director, sort of solidifies her place in the Black queer community of the era. So Cheryl learns everything she wanted to learn and more. And she identifies heavily with Faye too. She finds out that Faye ends up being like a lot closer to her own story than she ever thought possible. Again, going back to the ways that like the timeline of the Cheryl's present day travails in indie Philadelphia sort of mirror the things that she's investigating.
Right.
But she only achieves that by losing her relationship with Diana, which sort of goes off the rails when Diana's like not able to see past her white privilege. And she loses her friendship with Tamara, at least for now, because Tamara gets so fed up with her obsession, not only her relationship with Diana, but also her obsession with the story and the way that it sort of consumed her. And I ended up weirdly thinking of the Fabelmans, which I know you loved, in the way that, like, so Cheryl's victorious, but she's not. Like, she got what she wanted. She produced the film that she wanted, but maybe at the sacrifice of her personal life in some respects, both platonic and romantic friends. And I kept thinking of that great Judd Hirsch scene, which is sort of the central, the thesis of the Fabelmans is laid out for us explicitly by Judge Hirsch in the center, that, art will tear your heart out and leave you lonely. You'll be a shanda for your loved ones. You'll wander in the desert.
Excellent point. Like, any great film that is about filmmaking is ultimately about that, and the struggle of depicting your own life through the medium. I mean, it goes back
or any art, not even it doesn't even have to be a biographical
autofiction, right?
Well, it doesn't even have to be a biographical. Just the idea of obsession and art and like what you have to sacrifice to produce what you want. And I don't get the sense that Cheryl views it as a bad trade. Like, I feel like she feels, I did what I wanted to do, so those are prices I was willing to pay. But it does lend a sort of melancholy note to the end of the film, that it, or maybe at least ambiguous about whether or not all of this was worth it. I think she feels it, but I don't know. It's an interesting, it's the part that is sort of stuck with me most, maybe, is the idea that what did she have, she got there, but what did she have to sacrifice to get there?
It's an interesting point, because Cheryl Dunye is sort of put aside in her professional career too. I mean, this movie doesn't do anything for her. it's critically appreciated. Where it played, like New York Times positive review, LA positive review.
Village
It's
Voice, I think, loved it. Yeah.
yeah, Village Voice. It's certainly noteworthy because of the controversy that you're talking about. But take a look at her credits. I mean, she goes where a lot of not only Black directors, but Black female directors and female directors,
Television.
television. What's that? Who's my baby's daddy? She makes a film with Miramax that gets fucking scissor-handed by what's his name? That's not me
We won't even
forgetting.
speak his name. We
Right.
won't even speak his name.
But has a really rough road through all of it. And she's working to this day in television. She's made
But this still feels like her most famous film, right? Her first film.
there's no question. And I think like she's doing Equalizer, American Gigolo, Umbrella Academy, Bridgerton, Claws, like she's working in
Those are all good projects, yeah.
everything, on television. But other sort of big screen stuff that she tries to do doesn't really pan out for her. And it's clear that she has some talent beyond, setting up a camera somewhere, as we have talked about for about an hour now. Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I don't have a good sense. I'm interested to hear the commentary on this. Hopefully, that we'll get with the Criterion Physical Edition, because I kind of want to hear her feelings on this film.
She did an interview with Vanity Fair around the time Criterion did like Black Voices collection on the channel. And this is around, like I said earlier, start of pandemic, and talks about one not being aware that the film was being added in there. But this film by this time had already achieved cult status, but achieved a kind of elevated cult status into like critical favor among small circles. But in the outro of the last episode, I suggested that this film had made the Sight and Sound list. I should clarify that this film made the 100 to 250 part of the list. It indulged me with some cinema nerdery. It is Watermelon Woman on the critics poll currently sits at 146, with another new emergent cult. Shouldn't call her cult.
Or emergent. She's how old is she now?
And then, but this film, I feel like, hasn't had a lot of discussion until the past few years. That's India Song.
No.
That's Marguerite Duras' film from 1975. So yeah, all those things that I said are in context of like a critical appreciation. Vampire by Carl Theodore Dreyer and Alien by Ridley Scott. Oh no, the one that is insane to me is Grand Illusion, the film that would like top the poll 60 years ago is now tied in the 50s or something, and Chinatown.
I mean,
and just below Twin Peaks.
Do we want to turn this into a Sight and Sound gripe
Oh,
session?
yeah. Can we have a bonus episode right now?
No, I mean, and I say this as somebody who adores Grand Illusion. It's maybe one of my favorite French films of all time. So what? It's a Sight and Sound film.
That's what I'm saying, is that it's like the reputation of this film is rising, and but it's the voices that are propping it up, are giving stage to this, are also rising, which I think is what's interesting about the Sight and Sound poll, is how it changes with the culture, but the stage that we're giving certain voices. Much appreciated. I'm
just curious to see, like, I'm really interested to see if she does like a full length commentary on it, because like what is her perspective in 2023 about this film and its impact or her career trajectory overall.
So that edition that you're talking about, the physical Blu-ray edition, is coming out recently. It's the restoration that I was talking about, the UCLA Legacy Project. There is an interview with Cheryl Dunye. There's a conversation with Martine Sims,
Hmm.
and Cheryl Dunye. There's
Are you just
conversation
reading the
between.
extras right now?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
I don't know who this person is. Johns and Thomas Allen Harris. But anyway, I'm going through all of it as a commercial for Criterion Collection because I know they need the help. Cheryl Dunye's early shorts are also on it.
Oh, see,
Which
that's cool. I love when they do that.
that's yeah,
When
that's
they
the
throw
thing
that
that
stuff on there.
I'm excited about. So anyway, that's coming out on June 11th, so you can pre-order it.
Oh, sooner than I thought. I thought for some reason it was coming out in the fall. It's coming out soon. Wow, we're well timed, aren't we?
Ready.
Look how well timed we
Yeah,
are.
definitely. I did not do that intentionally, but you probably know that. Anyway, that's Watermelon Woman. I streamed it on Showtime. It's on
Yeah,
Showtime right
that's where I
now.
saw it too. Good on
You can
Showtime.
rent it too. You can rent it on major platforms, and yeah, that new physical edition is coming out soon. We did not dig into nearly everything this film has on its mind, but
No,
hearty recommendation.
for
Yeah.
and again, I'll say it again. In a very galaxy-brained, surprisingly rich 90-minute indie drama, like for an 90-minute indie dramedy from the 90s, it's incredibly rich little text. I love it.
I'm happy that we got to watch it.
Yeah.
All right, we've come to the rules of the game. The rules of this game are the downfall of the Roy family. We are here to talk about the end of the HBO series Succession. I don't know. I feel like this might be very specific to me.
Okay.
This is like the last appointment television thing I'm into right at this moment. You recommend a lot of TV. I think you watch more TV than me. That's not like a judgment thing. I watch trash.
Yeah.
This is like good.
I think you watch more. I think you watch more trash than I do. I don't watch reality TV.
Oh yeah. I watch this is dinner eating television.
Right.
This is everyone shut the fuck up TV.
Which we don't have a lot of.
No.
And this isn't, I mean, we're going to turn into a television podcast, and I don't want to go into a long thing about HBO systematically destroying their brand over the course of just a month. But HBO for a long time had kind of cachet on that. I'm trying to think, like it was Game of Thrones, at least for the first few seasons, the way it was like became the water cooler show. We don't get many true water cooler shows anymore. And Succession, I don't think it wasn't
White
its
Lotus
first.
is one, and
Kind
I'm
of,
not on
but
that.
I've never even seen White Lotus. Yeah,
Last of Us, so they might still have a handle on these things, but
yeah, Last of Us I think was for 9 episodes. I mean, and it's done.
Yeah, in our community, as I might call it, Succession holds a special place because I feel like it is critically appreciated by all, not just TV critics. Anyway, this is going to be a spoiler-rich discussion.
Wait, we're gonna discuss the entire. We're gonna discuss the entire 4 seasons right now here.
No, I couldn't do that. I can give you like the last 3 episodes. Anyway, but before we do that, I have an important question to ask you.
Okay.
What do you do with your knobbies?
Well, like Tom Wambsgans, I'm a frugal Midwesterner, so I make a damn sandwich out of them like a normal person. I don't throw them away. I don't freeze them. I just make a sandwich out of them.
Can I tell you
or toast?
Something I'm proud of as my development as a human is using the knobbies.
Yeah.
Like
some people are philanthropists. We use the knobbies.
Well,
that's what makes us decent human beings.
Depends on the loaf.
We do not lick our stepfather's cheese.
Oh, I would. All right. All right. Yeah, we're gonna. That in and of itself is a bit of a spoiler, but we're gonna get into other ones. This season has been, to me, it ranks among the best. If you think of television in discrete sections like seasons and then episodes, things like that. This run of 10 episodes ranks among the best season or series of television that I can think of. In that every episode was its own sort of discrete story to tell, and had an arc that fed into the next, like great serialized TV in a very special way.
Here's my analogy. Here's my analogy.
Yeah.
This is the meta HBO analogy. Each episode of Succession season 4 is a season of The Wire.
It is.
Does that work?
The first episode.
Is that anything?
Yeah, the first episode happened, and I was like, "Oh, what the fuck just happened?" That was a full season of television in that. But I think this is all very intentional. We all knew the title of the television show is Succession. The thrust of the television show has always been, who will succeed?
Has it? I mean, that's sort of the interesting question, I think, about, well, plot mechanically, yes.
That's what's interesting about this show, is that the mechanics of it have always been that. But what you have watched is the development of people, characters as people.
Right.
And maybe what this season has revealed. Right. Well, what this season is revealed is the development of a culture and how some folks pull the strings to make that culture.
Yeah, I think this season in particular, all of Succession is about power, right? On some level, and about the way that power is wielded in 21st century America specifically. And we should say that Armstrong, I think, is British. He comes from British television. Sort of like Iannucci with Veep, I almost feel like we need the best American political commentators to come from outside America. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a sharp observation. It's always kind of been that people from outside of the US get what we're up to over here.
Paris, Texas, one of the greatest American films of all time.
Right in my mind. It's that there's a fetishization of quote unquote America, or United States of America, but also a very sharp critique of it, because when you're on the outside, it's quite different.
But I think this season in particular is very much feels like Armstrong's summation. Like he's packing everything he can. And I don't want to discredit him. There's a whole stable. Obviously, television is a very collaborative medium, but we tend to talk of showrunners as auteurs, and when we talk about television, modern prestige television. So that's my shorthand. When I say Armstrong, what I really mean is everybody involved in the show.
You're talking about showrunner Jesse Armstrong.
Yeah, sorry. I should be clear. But this season in particular feels like him sharpening his knives to get at how power is wielded in 21st century America. And to be clear, I don't think that's even necessary. The crazy thing is the show is so layered. I don't even think that's like the core thematic question of the show, really. But it becomes like such a major part of this season in particular.
But there's an urgent thrust to it, that it's clear that the focus on this season is really around the election. Yeah, you could say that in the plot mechanics, it's around the buyout by it's over.
Gojo.
What is it? Gojo. The Gojo buyout of Waystar Royco. I'm already forgetting everything because it's over. But all of that really hinges on the election. Oh, and I'm so glad. I am so happy that the election was never resolved in proper. Of course, the way that this season was set up was that it was like a day at a time. And of course, you can't really believe that the events
it's intimated. I mean, in fact, it's intimated at the end that the Mencken election, like the supposed presidential elect Mencken, may be kind of premature, depending on how things pan out in the courts. It's fascinating how quickly it was
been through that many times,
right? But it's fascinating how quickly that was mooted, right? Like the third to last episode is all about the election. It's like I was getting PTSD from how much I felt like it was retroactively doing both 2016
really traumatic.
And 2020. Yeah. Very intense television, very very great drama, but like as intense as it is in that episode, it's almost immediately mooted. Not in the sense that the election doesn't matter, but in the sense that this show isn't about an election. The show is about power. An
It's
election
about
is just,
power and
an
how
election is
it's
just one.
transferred.
Yeah, election is
and
just one manifestation of power in our current like capitalist hellscape.
and the currency of power. In that, you know, you could take everything quite literally into a currency, but the exchange of power in order to get what it is more power, and that's how you have this cycle of greed that you get into.
Yeah, and I think
so,
the genius of the show, and that episode's a really good example of this, because the genius of the show, and I'm not saying anything original here. I'm not a TV critic, and I don't want to say that
yeah,
I have
doubt
insight
we will.
here. I don't
Yeah.
have anything, any unique insights here, but like the fact that if you want to sort of encapsulate the genius of the show as both a movie about a show about horrible people doing absolutely horrible things and making the world demonstrably worse in the process, like, and also a show about of rich pathos about a tragedy, about very relatable humans having horrible things done to them. I don't think it gets better than the twofer of how I feel about Roman Roy in the election episode versus how I feel about Roman Roy in the exact next episode at his father's funeral. Like, that is the dichotomy of the show in miniature. Yeah, and then the next. Like,
let's talk about what that is. Yeah, that's one thing I really wanted to talk about, is that Roman in one episode, and maybe even more clearly than it's ever been stated. The election night episode, there's a dichotomy between him and Shiv, and where she is the Democrat, is what we'll say,
limousine
because
liberal,
it's sort of a,
let's say it.
and so say it again.
Limousine liberal, right?
Right. Yeah. So it's someone whose ideology might be rooted in one thing, but whose behavior is rooted in the exact same thing as her brother's, who is on the opposite team, as you would say, who's leaning into this right wing ideology of Minkin, who is a Trumpian figure, or DeSantis figure,
but like articulate and smart somehow.
Right.
The most unrealistic thing about the show is the Republican alt-right fascist is like smart and articulate.
Well, and what's interesting about Shiv and Roman is that they're both doing and mimicking and behaving in the exact same way to very different ends. And there's crisis of consciousness in what's in between, which is Kindle. But anyway, so Roman in one episode's like, your team, I'm team right wing, make America great again, which is never said, but is very that. And then turned around so quickly in the way we respond to him in the funeral episode.
But he pre-grieved. I thought he pre-grieved.
Pre-grieved is so funny. And he, when it opens on Roman rehearsing his eulogy, something is going to go.
Well, that's the law of television, right? Like when you see somebody rehearsing something, it's not going to go the way they imagine it's going to go.
I thought about a heist film. I thought about a heist film, watching someone explain the heist and then watching the heist go terribly wrong. Because for me, I've lost a parent recently. There's nothing, and this was so identifiable, and it's so upset that I had to get up for a second to watch Roman at that funeral clam up, but also the moment where he's in there.
Can't do it.
But we're talking about this monster in the box, and it's a monster to all of them. But
yeah, and I think that
sort of shading that's so interesting about this show is that I get some shit from people who are like, how could you watch a show that's ostensibly about the Murdoch family? Like,
but see, I view that as like the most like elementary criticism, because by that logic, why do we think that The Godfather 1 and 2 is a classic film? Why is Richard III considered one of the great?
Right.
I mean, Lear in terms of plot, but in terms of like sympathetic main characters, it's much more Richard III. Like, like nobody complains about those as being like like we recognize rightly so that like contemptible characters can say great important things about the human condition and
Well, there's a
about
remove
the
with
world that we live in.
history,
Yeah,
right?
I guess
So
so.
there's
I
a
mean, that's where things are going to look. But I think we also kind of have gone through that cycle with everything, with everything that's happened in the last 20 years of prestige television. We went through it with The
Mad Men, Breaking
Sopranos,
Bad.
Breaking Bad, like people, and of course, like it goes both ways. We get people who take all the wrong lessons from those shows. But yeah, I mean, to me, I have no problem. I understand there are shows where I think there's a vapidity to watching, for lack of a better term, pretty people with problems shows. Like, but I don't think of Succession as a pretty people with problems show. It's a show about power and family and money, like all the things that we love to see in our dramas as Americans. I do think it's about all those things, and I think you're right in that the fourth season felt again, I say it feels like Jesse Armstrong was sort of winding up his pitch to get to this place where you can go into this season and just really lay into all our institutions one episode after the other. But I also think about that election episode, I think weirdly also, even though it's the least concerned with maybe the issue of the succession and the family, it smuggles it under the radar. And I think the key to understanding the whole show is in that one line that Kendall gives, which is he's self-aware enough to know maybe the poison drips through. I think it ultimately, like, this is the show about family, right? That's about maybe that certain levels of abuse and hatred and poison are inescapable. It becomes a trap, a flypaper that you can't escape, that abused become abusers. Maybe it's a very dark show in that respect. Like it's, and I think particularly once you see the conclusion, like nobody gets out safe.
Well, let's talk about that conclusion. Don't you think it aligns with that idea of cycles of abuse? And if anything is triumphant about the ending, it's that someone decides to break it while also maintaining it.
Kind of. I don't know. I think there's going to be a lot of debate about Shiv's final choice, and like what happens in the last 10 minutes of that show is everything. And already we're seeing kind of like all over the place analysis about what Shiv's motivations were and why she did what she did, and how different people are reading those scenes and those choices. I don't think that it's a 100% altruistic. Shiv is freeing her brothers, but accepting, like cursing herself and freeing her brothers kind of thing.
But don't forget the actual end and Shiv's end in particular
is the limpest fish handhold you've ever seen in your life.
I thought about Arrested Development when Tobias reaches his hand over to Lindsay, whose hand's been open, and her hand just moves, and then he just pets her. I thought about that.
I mean,
but of course, I mean, in the idea of the television show, it is, I think someone says something to this effect. Of course, it's the suit. It's the representational figure.
Yeah, Sam Adams at Philadelphia, he was at Philadelphia City Paper. I think he's at Slate now. He said something to the effect of, "Oh my God, Succession had this totally radical ending where an empty suit white dude ended up in charge of the giant media company. How radical!"
And it was all there on the table. Succession has never said anything really radical about the way we live or the way families work and power works and the way corporations work. It's that we all sort of knew is there within reach. And when
but the genius is that it holds out possibilities over we become like Lucy with that football, right? It holds out possibilities over and over again throughout the whole series. And I think the fandom for the show bears this out. The way that people constantly wanted, especially the core three kids, they constantly wanted Kendall, Roman, and Shiv to like follow the better angels of their nature over and over again. And
that's the thrust of the show.
They always fucked it up. They always refused to do that.
Right.
And that's the tragedy, right? That not only are they making bad choices, maybe I think the show's kind of dangling out the possibility that they might be congenitally incapable of making the right choices because of who they are.
Absolutely, which is the capital T truth to its end. It's that
I like the ending a lot. I do think it's going to still be, particularly Shiv's choice, I think it's going to be debated a lot. We're still it's sort of like the Sopranos ending. I think it's kind of brilliant, but it's also going to inspire a lot of dialogue in the ensuing years.
Did you have the Did you have a reaction to the ending that it was sort of soft?
No,
My initial
no.
reaction was, well, that's kind of what I thought would happen all along.
I kind of called it like a week ahead of time. I said on
Yeah.
Twitter that not 100%, but I said I think Tom's gonna end up CEO. I imagined a different mechanism by it, but I
We might
kind of
have
predicted
even
it.
on this when we were talking about it, when we first found out that Succession season 4 would be the last we were talking about. They all have to fail. I
Yeah,
mean, they're all incapable.
I
We had
think,
talked about that.
but weirdly, it's might be the best possible ending for these characters. Like,
I mean, what else would there be that would be? I mean, one, talk about it in terms of television, which it's done excellent job at being
we rarely
the
get a
kind of
good,
soap opera that we need right now.
and
And
it's also rare that you get a finale that I feel, to borrow a phrase, that feels that dramaturgically satisfying. Like,
it
it
truly
felt
does.
satisfying to
It
me.
has, yeah, it has taught us, and that was my point in asking that question, is it sort of taught us to preemptively accept and understand this ending, is that they're all failures, and
Yeah.
failures on a level because of the way they've been taught to interact. And I really love that scene where they negotiate first choosing Kendall when they're
Mhm.
at their mother's on their mother's island, choosing Kendall to finally do the thing. He can be it. You're gonna be king, and have the meal fit for a king, which is such a great
And
scene.
the agonizing part of it, and again, I'm not saying anything new, but like the way that the characters are just self-aware enough to know, like Kendall says something like, you can't be you, Roman, because you might actually have a soul in there somewhere, and I'm a business psycho. Like, he's self-aware enough to know that he's like
Of
bent.
the character and the show itself. Yeah.
And Roman says something to the effect during that scene of, well, here's the amulet. It's cursed and poisoned and it's probably gonna kill you, but enjoy your bauble. Like
Enjoy
they
your bauble.
know who they are. They know what they are. It doesn't make the tragedy any less poignant. It doesn't make their fall any much less delicious in a way. In a weird way, Roman almost ends up like with the best ending. You get that ghost of a smile. Some people pointed, I didn't notice this, but some people pointed out that he's drinking at the end is a 2 olive martini, which is Jerry's drink. He's thinking about his ex. And there's that ghost of a smile that says, like, wait a minute, I'm free now. I don't have to deal with
The
this bullshit anymore.
the resistance against quote unquote wrapping things up is very freeing. Um, I mean,
Somebody,
traditionally in a television show, you're at the last episode, like, what about this thread? What about this thread? What about this one? And this is not that show because it acknowledges
and that's often a
that.
feature. That's often a feature, I think, of what we call mystery box plotting. And Succession is not that kind of show. It's just a drama.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
I mean, that's what folks were looking forward to with Game of
and
Thrones.
and what's disheartening, yeah, maybe not even that. Game of Thrones is sort of like a whole nother conversation, but maybe like maybe the only disheartening part is not actually the show, but some of the reactions to it have been sort of confusing to me. Like, I feel a lot of people are already talking about, well, there's got to be a spinoff or there's got to be a sequel. I'm like, can we just not fucking, can we not just fucking have something? Can we just not have a thing and have it be great and leave it alone? No patch on Godfather 3 Coda or whatever, but like, let's just have a thing and have it be a perfect little jewel of a thing and not fuck with it. I don't know. There's this, and then there's also like a whole contingent of people that seem to be like, I read their takes on the ending and I sort of like, are we watching the same show for 4 years or not? Because it seems like you're inventing a show in your head that didn't exist. I don't know. There's a whole question about media
that's one of the
criticism
things that makes it great TV, is that you're going to have so many different people watching it in so many different ways. And
yeah, but some things are based on the
test.
text and some things are in fucking people's heads. There's a real media literacy. We can have a whole other conversation. There's a media literacy problem right now. People are reading the movie or television show that they are imagining and not reading the text. And I don't know how to even address that.
We should probably not get into that because
we could do a whole series about that.
Our second bonus episode spinoff from this is, let's talk about media literacy.
But the point is, Succession good? Like, that was our take?
Good. Thumbs up. Good resolution. Good showgram. last thing I have to say about the last season is that I think all of our fears were quelled and addressed, and it didn't. It did not become the show that would spin its wheels, and we, yeah, occasionally maybe, oh, we're gonna have another moment where we're gonna talk about the three of them, but it found new and exciting and creative ways to do those, and ways that made sense within the ethos of the show.
I mean, we're at the
And
point now where like shows are either getting canceled after a season or they're spinning out to 12 seasons to no particular purpose. So it feels like a really nice, beautiful thing when the show's creators say the story is done when we
this
get to
is
this
it.
point, and this is it.
This is it.
Barry just wrapped up literally the same night, and it went out very strong as well. And it felt like the right ending at the right time. So like it doesn't happen often. We almost feels weird that it's weird that it happened twice in the same night on the same network. We don't get it that often though. I feel like Breaking
Those are
Bad did it.
two shows, like Barry, I'm not caught up on, but there's shows that, according to everyone who's smart about these things, including yourself, is that there was a correct amount of oversight from a showrunner who had a vision, and they pivoted in certain ways, and everything was
And again, this goes back to like I have questions about where HBO Warner is going now, because like both, if you talk to Bill Hader and Jesse Armstrong, you read their interviews, they both very strongly credit I don't know what the role would be, their producer or liaison or contact at HBO who guided the show into reality. They keep crediting that person, and they're different people in those respects, but they always go back to, I had a shepherd at HBO who believed in me and believed in this and like bent over backwards to get this made. And that seems to be a consistent thing with HBO. You hear with people who have creatives who deal with HBO. So I'm a little, it's a little disheartening to see their current direction, because I don't feel like that environment is necessarily going to persist.
Well, I'll tell you,
forward.
Succession stopped, and I immediately started watching the Orphan docu-series with Natalia, the maybe murderous, this is a true crime thing, and I'm about to lose you as I speak about it.
Well, this is the Discovery synergy, right? They funneled you right into a Discovery Plus.
It's an ID show, and it's sitting right next to Succession. What a way to go. What a way to go. Every episode we round out with one more thing. We've talked about so much on this episode, but guess what? We have one more thing. That's why it's called that. Andrew, you go first.
Yeah, we're recording this on May 30th, the premiere date of I Think You Should Leave season 3 on Netflix, which if you are in the cult of I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson, and if you aren't, why the hell aren't you watching the show?
I don't know.
I will admit that I was a skeptic, actually. I sort of shotgunned this series after it already had 2 seasons. And I didn't know much about it other than that it was like a very cringe comedy show with a very strange sketch comedy sensibility. But I like instantly fell for it. I instantly understood why it was like an insanely memed, dedicated cult show. It's exactly the right size. So you don't know, this is just a sketch comedy show. Done in like very small seasons. Each season is 6 episodes, and each episode is like all of 16 minutes. Like you can watch now we're in 3 seasons. You could watch the entire, the entire run of this series in the same time you'd watch 2 Succession finales. Like it's that short. It's a great, and it's also a show that really, you wouldn't think like a sketch comedy show would be like this, but it's a show that really rewards repeat viewings. Like every time I watch it, I find different things about it funny. There's just different line readings. It's a very screamy show. My wife is always asking, what's going on in that show? Everybody's yelling. A lot of it is just like kind of like Mr. Show in that respect. Like it really kind of like just keeps escalating into like this shouty crescendo in all of these scenes.
So wait, I'm pretty sure that you got off work and immediately went into this. Have you watched any of the new?
I have watched the season premiere today. I've watched it twice already, all the way through.
Wait, it's that bite-sized?
Yeah, it's that bite-sized. Yeah.
Oh, well, what am I doing? I think I should stay and watch it.
I don't think it's for
Clearly not.
everybody. I'd
I'm not that
recommend it.
person.
I don't recommend it to everybody, but I don't think it's for everybody. So if you dip in the first episode, you're going, what the fuck is this? Then it maybe it isn't for you. I'm not one of these people who claims that it's like the kind of thing that's everybody's thing, but I learned to love it almost immediately. So
I mean, I've seen most of the first season, and I didn't not finish it for any good reason other than my brain is broken.
And you can dip in,
recently,
like that's the other thing. You could literally spin the wheel and pick an episode from any season, and it's a sketch comedy show. It doesn't. There's no recurring narrative. There's nothing. No reason you can watch one before the other. But
the last golden anniversaries that Cinema St. Louis had, they played Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie, Louis Buñuel's Oscar-winning 1972. Well, that slash, yeah, 72 film, and the thing that was really on my mind, I've seen that film a handful of times. I love that movie, but was the surrealist, absurdist to Netflix sketch show pipeline. Like there's so much of a classic surrealism in things like I Think You Should Leave, or The Characters. Do you remember that show where a comedian got like one episode and they got to just do whatever they wanted with it, and it was sort of the same free associative comedy, and so I thought about that
bordering
a lot.
I think You Should Leave, it really is surreal, bordering on like Dadaist Aqua Teen Hunger Force kind of humor. But it has, I think Brunel would maybe even love this show because it has that kind of Alan Sepinwall has a really nice piece this week about where he's doing a taxonomy of I Think You Should Leave sketches, like explaining like the 6 types of sketches, and like they all have a similar impulse behind them, but they come in different flavors. And the ones I really enjoy are the ones where like almost all of them, not all of them, almost all of them involve Tim Robinson being in a scene and like taking something too far, like just not knowing when to quit.
Yeah.
And usually it ends in disaster, but there are some of the sketches that I love that flip that premise, where like his insanity like seems to infect everybody else in the room, and then suddenly everybody else in the room is going along with his insanity. Those are kind of like, there's something very like Discreet Charm / Exterminating Angels about that. Like, I don't know, it's always fun to watch when like the characters, so all the other characters around him react in a certain way. So check it out if you haven't seen it. There's never a bad time to dip in. You could even start with the 3rd season. It doesn't really matter. You'll know pretty quickly whether or not the show's sense of humor is in your vein.
Very good. And where can people find you?
You can find me on Letterboxd at AWyatt76, and still hanging around on Twitter, not doing much there, at Arachnophiliac.
Love our Twitter updates, not our tweets, but our updates on Twitter every episode. We're like, yeah, we're still there. Anyway, I'm Joshua Ray. Crispy Retina is on their other social media platforms, but the one more thing for me is actually like a few things.
Okay.
Andrew, you are a horror aficionado, expert?
I don't want to say expert. I like horror. Let's say that.
Whatever. What are your feelings on the Critters series?
I have not seen them as an adult. I remember them fondly in the sense of like they're wrapped up with like crummy local. There was a local video store where we rented all our VHS tapes, me and my dad, and I have fond memories of picking out horror movies and sci-fi movies mainly based on box art. So like that era is the last era I remember seeing the Critters movies.
And these little guys are so cute, ugly.
Yeah.
With their multiple rows of very sharp incisors. That's all they have. And they're attacking. They also, one thing I forgot. Okay, so that's my one more thing is like one, specifically the Critters films, and I'll break them down very quickly, but two, like pick a horror franchise and just run it through, because that is very like a very joyful thing to do, to see how far filmmakers are willing to take the very basic structure of the first film and where they expand it into. I think my favorite one to revisit is always Nightmare on Elm Street. Those films go in, speaking of, Buñuel and Dadaist and surreal territory. Once they get into like crazy plotting, they also get crazier in their sort of Freddy setups and Freddy nightmares. Critters is always sort of interested in being the low rent Gremlins, and even more so as it grows along. I've rewatched the first three. I'm very sure I've seen the fourth before. As it turns out, there is a fifth that came out in 2019.
Oh Lord.
Called Critters Attack. And there is a web series,
I have heard of
Critters.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a feature film and a web series in 2019 that's like 8-10 minute episodes. I guess I'll watch it. I guess if you force
It's
me,
part
I'll
of the
watch it.
canon. You need to watch it now.
Yeah, it is. But the original Critters was a Gremlins knockoff, but also
There were a
started
few of those in the 80s.
so
Ghoulies.
many
Yeah.
Ghoulies, trolls, like everything sort of, those little guys were everywhere. And I call them little guys because the critter guys are just little guys. They're just little cuties. The one thing I love about them is the very dumb thing that they have these spikes that shoot out of them, like they can aim really well out of their back. And it's always a crazy setup for them to get able to do it. But there's also this weird sci-fi conceit with them that there are intergalactic bounty hunters coming after them. And of course, as horror franchises tend to do, they get deep into building lore that didn't exist past the first one. There are
for a series that absolutely needed a deep lore.
Yeah, there are some Lori and Michael are siblings things in the Critter franchise that didn't need to happen. But what's fun is to watch like Dee Wallace is in the first one. The second one has some folks in it. Third one is notoriously Leo DiCaprio. Fourth one, no one talks about this. Brad Dourif, right? Which is always great.
Yeah. He can be in atrocious films, but he's never bad himself.
The same year she did Malcolm X, which I also recently watched and is a fucking masterpiece.
Yeah.
Angela Bassett is in Critters 4.
Whoa. That's a new one on me.
Bassett did the thing. So anyway, my one more thing is actually like Critters and horror franchises. Dig in, dig deep.
Yeah, run the series, as they say. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah. All right, and yeah, you can find all of our words at the Take Up STL on social media and the take-up.com. All right, on our final episode of the New Black Film Canon, we are going to be talking about Andrew's pick. That is a film by Usman Sambane, Black Girl, a film that I fucking love.
Oh, okay, cool. I've never seen it, so I'm picking. It's a blind pick for me.
Oh, what if you hate it?
No, I won't hate it.
It's gonna be one of the ones that is like someone else picks my thing, and I'm like, I'm just gonna sit in the corner being like,
no, I need your enthusiasm. I need that's the best place to be when like you've seen it and love it and I haven't, or vice versa. Like then we can sort of bounce off each other.
Well,
new impressions versus beloved impressions.
It's text for so much that came after it. Yeah,
so part of my impulse is that I'm learning to trying to be the more adventurous white dude bro film critic. I've spent the last 10 years learning to love sub-Saharan African film and sort of knowing the texts that are important to that continent. I feel like are important to me. So I'm trying to reach out. And we're in a moment now where there's a lot of great stuff happening. We just had Saint Omer last year, Atlantics, I think 2 years ago.
But he's the godfather of the third cinema, and Black Girl is, I believe, it made the sight and sound. This is an opportunity for me to catch up on a few of his other films. Not that I'm tasking you with watching Black Girl and everything else, but Jala and Mandabi are popular films that
No,
I
and I
haven't
feel,
seen
and
it.
again, I feel like it's been a really, really good year for both French language and English language and Native African language cinema coming out of the African continent in
And
the last like
talking
5
about
years.
French colonialism, hey,
Yeah, and
maybe I'll pick up some stuff for my canceled golden anniversary.
a lot of stuff from the last 5 years has been particularly great in terms of contemporary film. So going backwards and looking at a sort of laureled classic film from the continent seems like a wise decision.
Clearly I'm excited. We're already digging into it, but we will reserve all of that for here in a couple of weeks. We will talk about Black Girl by Osman Sembene,
Yep.
Senegalese filmmaker. That's available on Criterion and I think we
HBO
said
too.
HBO Max, but
Yeah.
guess what? It's available on
Max.
Max.
And I think you can rent it, for a few
Just
bucks from pretty much
Max.
everywhere. So
I would
good
suggest
availability.
getting the disc. Anyway, yeah, I'm already being like, spend $40 for this compact.
Excited. I have done that. I bought Criterion discs on sight unseen, so that's not entirely outside my experience.
I definitely have never ever done that. Anyway, yeah. So we will see you then. We want to thank Kayla McCullough for our social media, Jessica Pierce for our editing, our partners at Cinema St. Louis, music by AMP. And until next time,